Well, good evening and welcome to the Copper Box in London. We are at the GLL Camden Cadet Sabre International 2016 on the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, and it's time for the gold medal match in the women's sabre event. We have Yoana Ileva up against Kelly Lusinier, and with me in the commentary box is sabre guru John Southfield. Good evening, John.
Hi, Karen. Good to be here.
It's very good to have you here. John, look, we're about to get underway here. Can you just tell us a little bit about how we got to this stage?
Yeah, Ileva, the Bulgarian fencer, she came through to the last state quite comfortably. And she had quite a tough match against the Greek girl Kaluta, but put her away 15-10 in the end. And then took on the Spanish girl Ventura, who's a nice fencer, very tidy fencer, and works really hard on the piece. But Ileva had enough in the tank to put her away as well and make it into the final 15-12. Lusinier, the French girl, she had a similar match in the last state with the Romanian Radu, winning 15-10, but then a real nail-biting semi-final with Courtain, the Belgian, who had put away our last remaining British fencer, Maya Fashikun, in the last state. And Courtain came back with a brilliant pari post to level up at 13-all, but then couldn't quite close it out, and Lusinier, the French girl, won through 15-14, last gasp effort. So I think it's going to be a really exciting final. Yeah, both semi-finals are really interesting, and that promises for a great final here.
We've got the French girl much taller. Does that have a big effect in sabre?
It can do, less so now the timing has changed, which I think we're going to talk about a bit later on. When the timing was shorter, you know, that long reach to attack on preparation, hit preparation, was quite significant. But not so much now that the timing's a bit longer.
Well, like you say, we will talk about that, but we've got Konstantin Sandu here, who's going to be refereeing this match. Good referee, well known on the circuit?
Yeah, excellent referee. He was a top-class fencer in his day, which isn't that long ago. I don't want to give him any be disrespectful to him. Still a very young guy, obviously, but yeah, brilliant referee. He's refereed senior level, World Cup, and a really good guy.
Well, big support here for both athletes. I think the bigger cheer came for the Romanian.
Bulgarian, I think. Bulgarian, yeah.
Say.
Yeah, Ileva, she's from the Atropolsky Academy in Bulgaria, and Nikolai Dinev is coaching her. And the French girl's being coached by Gilles Grenier, who's the junior national coach over in France. So a clash of coaches as well as fencers here.
Well, look, we're in the early stages here of this match. We knew at the beginning of the season there was going to be a couple of fairly big changes in sabre this season, but we're not seeing one of them here. We've got the timing block out, which we won't go into great detail, but I thought that the sabreurs were going to be starting with their back foot on the old on-guard line. What's happened?
Well, they were, and they were at the beginning of the season, and the idea was to start with the rear foot on the 4-metre line, bringing the fencers closer together. After a couple of Junior World Cup competitions, and actually during the second round of Junior World Cup competitions, it was recognised that actually with two very tall fencers with the back foot on the line, they were actually in breach of one of the rules. The rule being that if your arm's extended in the on-guard position before you start and your points cross, then you need to take a step back to lengthen the distance. And for very tall fencers, actually, there were some people who were in breach of that rule just by coming on guard with the back foot on the line. So the solution was to actually draw a new line. You can probably just about see the small red lines on the ground, which is a 3-metre on-guard line. So now the sabreurs are starting with the front foot behind a 3-metre line. A tad further back than the back foot on the 4-metre line, but obviously a metre closer than the old line.
Yeah, that's a fascinating change, a compromise made very quickly, very early in the season. What's this rumour I hear about them adopting it across all 3 weapons?
Yeah, we've been chatting to a few quite influential people in the FIA about this, and the talk is if it's going to be adopted permanently for sabre, which will be decided at the end of this calendar year, then it's a proposal that maybe it will just be rolled out and we'll just have a 3-metre on-guard line which will apply to all weapons. I don't think epeists and foilists will notice a big difference with that. Obviously, it's much more important in sabre to get off the mark quickly than it is in the other 2 weapons. So I think that's really just for the purposes of having a single line, which is a bit less confusing to a non-fencing audience than having 2 on-guard lines.
Well, I suppose the manufacturers also get to make 1 piece rather than 2.
Yeah, and all the clubs will save on marker pens as well. So.
Well, look, Lusinier here came out to a cracking start, went 6-1 up, but all of a sudden, Yoana Ileva has woken up and she's back within 1.
Yeah, I think the difference for these 2 athletes, as you pointed out, the French girl's very tall. She's a physical fencer, very strong fighter, but a little bit one-dimensional, whereas the Bulgarian has a bit more game. She's maybe taken a bit longer to work out her tactics, but I think she's a little bit more capable of adapting So it's just a question of whether she can overcome that physicality and that strength and power of the French girl by using tactics and technique a little bit. So we'll see how it develops. Good parry pass to end the first half by Lusinier. So she goes into the break with a 3-hit cushion.
Yeah, so the French Sabre program pretty strong at the moment. We saw Manon Brunet coming fourth at the Olympic Games, I believe it was.
Yeah, absolutely. The junior program, which is run by Gilles Grenier, who's chatting now to Lusinier, has been really successful over the last couple of years in developing fencers from the youth ranks through to juniors and then into the senior squad. And they've got a really big group of successful young women's sabre fencers, and they're going to be very strong over this Olympic cycle. I think very hard to beat.
And what we're seeing in when you have a sort of core of good fencers within a federation, you often see that acting as an inspiration, as we saw with Rebecca Ward, for example, in the USA, and then there became a sort of a line of good American female sabreurs. Are we going to see a similar thing here with the French?
Yeah, I mean, looking back to the kind of American miracle of fencing that happened over the last 15-20 years, Ward was kind of following in the footsteps a little bit of the Jacobsons, and she was the same time, obviously as Mariel Zagunis, who's still around, being at the top of the world rankings, being very, very successful. So there was a whole group then that inspired a new generation, and as you say, there's now a conveyor belt really of strong American women's sabre fencers coming through. So I think this generation of cadets in France isn't quite as strong as the previous one, and you always have this kind of wave effect where maybe a year group is blocked out a little bit by a very strong group ahead of them, and they don't get that international experience at the highest level as early as the previous group did. But then the younger generation behind them maybe is going to be another super strong one again.
Yeah, so almost sacrificing a year for the sake of sort of helping develop the one above and the one below.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get that continuity year by year. I mean, some places you do see it, and depends on the kind of training system. France is still a club-based system at this level, at cadet and the bottom end of junior level, and then it becomes a centralised system at the Junior World Cup and Senior World Cup level. So it's very much dependent on the clubs producing the fencers for the national coaches to work with.
Well, it started well for Kelly Lusinier. She took a lead into the break, but Ileva's come out in the second half, and she's come out, as you said, with a bit of a stronger tactical play.
Yeah, I think Nicola would have had a chat to her in the break, and what she's doing is doing a little bit more preparation in the middle with her footwork before she commits. So previously she was doing one-step preparation, then step lunge, and giving quite an easy make-miss or parry-post opportunity to the French girl. But now she's being a bit more patient, and you can see with her attack as well, she's not attacking in one speed, she's pushing and holding and then pushing again and finishing. And I think that's the right answer for the kind of physical fencer she's fencing.
Well, to be fair to Lusinier, she is moving up and down the piece, though she's not rushing too much either. So the French fencer is trying to sort of almost match this tactical change.
That's right, but I think what's happening is the Bulgarians keeping a bit longer distance on the long attack, waiting more for the counter-attack, and then having space to finish because the distance is much better. And there we just saw again in the middle of the piece, the Bulgarian did a little bit more preparation. The French girl Lusinier went for the parry post, but because the distance was different to the first half, she couldn't parry, and it was a mal-parry. So I think Ileva's found the answer. It's just whether she can now stick with her game plan and have the discipline. You see that good short preparation, eyes open, pushing down the piece, waiting for the French girl, and then finishing. And if there's no change from Lusinier in the next hit or two, I think she's going to really struggle to come back now.
Well, I'm just going to say, surely Lusinier has to change her tactics now. I did see the coach step over to her at the end of that hit. And look, for the uneducated when it comes to sabre, why isn't she just going out on the attack?
I think the problem is for her that Ileva's got solid technique and she's got a nice preparation in the middle of the piece. So if she goes in too quickly, she might get hit on the tempo in the middle, or she may get parried. So she, in my opinion, she has to do short, sharp steps like that, and then parry post, draw the Bulgarian into her, and then take the parry post or make miss.
Yeah, that was a lovely hit,
that was a better preparation from Lusinier.
So a bit of a trap there, setting up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Drawing the Bulgarian into attack, and then half step back parry post. She tried the same again, but the technique let her down a little bit there. Hand wasn't quite in the right place. Bearing in mind this is a cadet competition, these are young fencers, obviously some of them developed physically earlier, some of them developed technically earlier. And Lusinier, as we said earlier, is a strong physical fencer. Ileva, a little bit more technical.
Well, cadet means they're under the age of 17 here, and it really is the Bulgarian that's come out in this second half And she's looking the strong. She looks very confident, and she looks, well, as soon as I was about to say she looks good for the title, a bit of patience there from the French fencer.
Yeah, and also Ileva gave her a bit too much space. She needs to close it down while she's defending a little bit. Giving that space to the French fencer meant there was no pressure on Lusinier to finish, so she could just push and wait for the right moment and finish when she felt comfortable. It's 12-10.
Yeah, still in this, the French girl. There's a preparation for the referee. The referee's given that as an attack from the left.
Lusinier did a step, but she waited after the step, so she gave the priority away. She did gain some time, but the Bulgarian had already established priority. Long attack from Ileva. It's 13-10, so very, 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 very important hit right here. 14-10, nicely done.
She's one away from the title now. Bulgarian was trailing, remember, 6-1 at the beginning of this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was 8-6 at the break, if I remember.
Yep.
So she's 8-2 up in this half. First attack into the guard. So Lusinier pulls one back. She's fired up, Lusinier, that's for sure.
Who'd be a Sabre referee? I had absolutely no idea what was going on there. And yet, he's calm, cool and collected. But that looks like it's it.
It is indeed. Ileva takes the title, 15-11. Really good change of preparation with her footwork in the second half made all the difference. And Lusinier couldn't quite find the answer to that change. Congratulations to her and Nikolai Dinev, her coach. Really good result for her and a great comeback and a good example there of what an important tactical change can do in the break in Sabre, how much it can swing a match.
Well, there we have it. Yoana Ileva takes the Camden Sabre International of 2016, 15-11, with Kelly Lusinier picking up the silver medal, and Maria Ventura and Julien Cortin taking the bronze medals. We'll be back a bit later for the men's final. Thank you, John.
Thank you.